Let's go ahead and take a look at our map. And, well, Ward, this is very interesting because for the first time today, we will be seeing the newest map, Sunset, with the Sussy players starting off on the defense. But look at all those bans. You have Haven, Ascent, Bind, all the standard maps thrown to the wayside for the newest map.
The newest map, and it's a map that, I know, as we were talking about behind the scenes, a lot of unpredictability on this map. You don't necessarily know what the meta is. Obviously, good agents like Jet, Raze, they're still going to be good on this map. The agents don't get worse. It's just all about how you craft yourself in this map, the play style around it, and I think we should be seeing some very interesting comps on this map. I know Astra has been picked a little bit, and looks like Shamsun's going to be locking in that Astra pick as well, but overall, very dynamic possibilities here.
Yeah, I'm looking at that double Fade pick across the board here. 2 Fades showing up in the mix. Usually more of an experimental pick, but on this map might carry a lot of value here. And as you said, both squads kind of feeling themselves out over here. On the defensive side, you of course have that double initiator pick here with the Fade and the Breach respectively. So a lot of initiation power on their side of things. Not really seeing much outside of the double controller pick here on the side of the attackers. So both teams trying to figure out their way on this new map. A pretty standard map, all things considered. Just 2 sites to go through. A nice mid corridor as well. But, you know, a lot unexpected here. Both of these teams set to kind of lay the track for what this map could be.
Yeah, and lay the track for maybe even the future of Sunset maps throughout this tournament. I mean, you talk about other maps, you talk about the strategy behind picking, banning, ensuring that your opposing team doesn't get the map that they want, and ensuring that you get your best map, and sort of the interplay between both. Now, these teams, they may have been doing some research, they may have some data on the previous experiences on other maps that have been played, but this map of Sunset, completely different, completely new strategies. People compare it to like a Haven Ascent hybrid in a sense, but I think the main point of focus in this map is this mid control, and you can see a lot of players on the Sussy player side definitely lining up for some focus towards mid. OSU Scarlet also potentially looking to split it up as well.
Yeah, when you get to any general 2-site map, that middle control, it becomes very, very important. It looks like, again, as you said, Sussy players going to be applying the pressure down mid, and that also creates a lot of different angles you could potentially take from that point forward. Obviously, with OSU, the setup early on, not necessarily applying that middle pressure that we see out of Sussy players, but if Sussy players can gain that middle pressure, they can take it either towards A or B, depending on what the map shakes up. But that being said, we're into the pistol round here. Sussy players on the defense versus OSU Scarlet, a matchup between the 2 and 3 seed for a spot in the winners finals, and you already start to see that pressure into the backlines of OSU Scarlet. Sussy players have seemingly found themselves in a really good spot early on.
Yeah, the Cypher Cam with the instant detection on towards A, but a lot of discipline. They're showing a lot of respect. They haven't necessarily confirmed that the push is going to be onto the A site, and still a lot of util up from Frosty to attempt to defend it. Cam's back online in 20 seconds, and that can be massive to confirm whether or not the push is onto the site that you're on or onto the other side. But some smokes used to sort of put up some deception in towards mid, and there might be a fight towards courtyard coming through.
Oh, this is going to be very important here. KDS with a interesting angle that he could play this from, but Chuck rounding the corner is going to apply some pressure here and force him off of the angle. Going for the jump shot. It gets denied. Kukli will not be vac banned here today. Chuck the Human finds the first kill on the board, and now OSU Scarlet, they have the opportunity to roll on into this A site. Not a lot of pressure being felt anymore by the Sussy players, who have to back it up ever so slightly. Vesperial sending in some shots. None will connect. Instead, he is stunned out of his boots. OSU Scarlet, they have this site locked down. It's going to be a tough retake, and even tougher as the kills continue to matriculate the way of OSU. Sussy players, 1 player standing. It's just Shameson on the Astra. Will find the poke, will find the second, but not going to find much more than that. It is a fantastic start and a fantastic attack out of OSU Scarlet to kick things off.
Yeah, it was looking absolutely beautiful from them. They managed to really play it slow, wait for the initial pick. And the initial pick was actually on mid, which left sort of Sussy players like, oh, we don't know what the execute's going to be. We can't really set up against this. We have to focus all attention on mid. And then OSU Scarlet just hits the execute that they had been setting up the entire time onto the A site. a very smart play round for OSU Scarlet. We'll see how they adapt through on their bonus.
And I think, again, with this map being a little bit newer, obviously the strategy is not necessarily fully intact here. You start to see a little bit of slow play, both teams not wanting to be the team that makes that first mistake. And we saw that out of OSU, but eventually they got that first kill on the board and were able to just continue that momentum. And now the momentum into this round, it continues to carry. 999 will find the kill up on the board. Des kicking the round off hot for OSU Scarlet as they now try and make the approach over towards the B site. Sussy players have completely given up the control. Jameson will drop as well, and OSU just continuing to steamroll.
And they've taken the control of site. Their holds on these sites are looking fairly good as well. Obviously, on a new map, you don't necessarily know the right places to hold, know the right places to swing, but that's honestly, he has the script to some extent. It's all left on Frosty, last member of the Sussy players, going for a hero play, but can't really find it there with the shorty.
You gotta respect the shorty play, though. You love to see it come out, but nonetheless, the round going the way of OSU Scarlet. We pretty much expected that there, Wars. Again, with the economic disadvantage that Sussy players were facing, you typically do not take a round. The unfortunate thing for them, though, is the fact that they didn't even get a kill off in that round. It was a flawless round out of OSU Scarlet. But now, everything's all evened up. You have all across the board guns, artillery to play with here. And now OSU potentially at the disadvantage as well, given the fact that they have less artillery to work with. Sussy players, now it's their turn to bat.
Scary thing is, even though OSU Scarlet less artillery, they have Dez with that Vandal, and that could be massive. Currently 6-0, and obviously that's just the starting pistol rounds. You could argue that Reyna is the best on her pistol rounds and her advantageous rounds where she can get that overheal potential, but obviously a very scary player. It looks like they're prioritizing a lot of space towards mid. Early smoke comes up, but do they know the trip is here? They are going to detect it, and they're just caught in this courtyard region, deciding exactly where they want to split through.
Yeah, slow mid play out of 3 of the players, but you also have players flushed over towards that A and B site. Both players just trying to gain any information you can. And again, out of OSU, it just feels like they're not wanting to make that first mistake. So far, so good out of them, but still, you gotta at some point hit pedal to the metal and you gotta time it properly here if you are them. Looks like that progress, though, being made over towards the B site. We still have 2 players from Sussy players who could defend, but they're playing very, very far back. When you compare over towards that A site, all 3 of Sussy players pushed up, rearing, and ready to go. Now the initiation, onto the point we go.
And that was such a great read by OSU Scarlet, keeping their Viper player out to break the camera, keeping all the presence on the A site where the real executes are going to be on the B site. This defense that they're putting up too, completely different than the last round. They're not playing on site. They're not doing the brawl. They're actually giving a lot of presence towards mid, basically forcing Sussy players to all funnel through their defender side. And they now have control of 2 sides of the site.
This is so brilliant out of OSU. If they can just execute on this pincer, it could be game over for Sussy players. Both squads trying to gain control of that B site, which has been completely picked up by OSU Scarlet, but is still getting the kills to go their way. Noodle will find 1, but is cascaded by 3 kills. And back and forth we go in the feed. Chuck the Human, though, will find the 2 to close. And OSU Scarlet hold on strong. Unfortunately, though, they lose their guns to the spike, and that is going to be detrimental to the economy.
Detrimental, but it's not going to cost them in this situation because in this point, Sussy players have to go on another save round, and OSU Scarlet, even though they lose all their guns, they can still buy up here. They still get a bit of bonus from all the players dying. And I got to talk about how they play that defense. It was beautiful. They had snakebite lineups. They had some form of fade lineup as well to really deny Sussy players on the retake. I love how dynamic OSU Scarlet has been throughout these first 3 rounds.
Oh, KDS, the Kobe from above, connects onto 2 kills to kick the round off, and this is desperate territory for OSU. Obviously, the save round out of Sussy players, you cannot ask for more out of your raise in that equation there. My goodness, what a way to kick off the round. Still, though, you could argue that they're at a disadvantage given the guns, and man, they will find 2 to respond in time. KDS continuing, though, to find those need kills. I don't know how he continues to do it. OSU Scarlet in 2v3. Now Sussy players have the opportunity to grab some guns. It's exactly what Vesperial will do, with now 2 players routing the corner. Can he hold? That is the question as reinforcements starting to rotate on in. Finds the first, finds the second, and a thrifty out of Sussy players. What the hell did we just watch, War?
Vesperial and KDS showing up absolutely massive for teams. And you talk about these Raze, Paint Shell, plus Fade Seize combos that you can execute with on other maps such as Lotus, such as Split maybe even, but you don't really talk about it on a map that you haven't really seen that much of yet, and they came up massive this round. They're going to be leading their team and leading their team well, but now OSU Scarlet has sort of figured out that that's one of the tricks in Sussy players' playbook. They know, and they're going to be able to watch out for it a little bit stronger this time.
In terms of the economy, both teams finally on even footing. First time since the pistol round that we can say that, and now things start to get very, very interesting because Sussy players, despite the fact that they have that round disadvantage, they gained a little bit of momentum, you could argue, from that last round. Also, KDS gaining a lot of information where OSU is trying to play from. Feels like a suffocating force here as they trade out for kills the early round, and now trying to figure out where they want to take this spike, looking to apply that pressure still over towards the B site, but you have two players now rotating into your backline, so you're going to have to deal with the pincer here on Sussy players. Could be huge.
Yes, Sussy players with some uncharacteristic or even characteristic aggression, but Death shuts it down. Strong start from him so far this game. Now, Shamson's still left on this flank, and I don't think OSU's realizing there's a second player here. Shamson could have a massive position.
This could be very big, and Sussy players reading the rotation through and through. But the question is, are they actually going to rotate? Shamson will find the kill off onto Des to even the score, but still the rotation not necessarily the way you might expect it to be, as that was the lone player over towards the A side. Instead, trying to play for that middle control is OSU, and Shamson, the lone player, will be sent 6 feet under. Sussy players now trying to figure out where the hell this spike is going. OSU just putting them on skates at this point as they make it into that B site. Frosty will find one, though, to even the score once again. Time ticking away, and the spike won't go down. Desperate times will call for desperate measures. And OSU, that round slipped away in the blink of an eye.
That round did, in fact, slip away. I mean, I thought that the hold was going to be strong enough, but again, KDS showing up absolutely massive on these defenses. They feel like they've started to read into exactly what OSU Scarlet are doing on attack, and now they're looking to counter it, and now they also have this massive economy advantage as well.
Yeah, no, this is going their way and then some, and you can definitely argue that the pendulum has shifted their way, but we have seen teams in this bout early on pull off thrifties. Now the ball in OSU's court to try and pull off something magnificent. Do we expect it? That is the question, but OSU so far so good over towards that middle control, completely granted it. You do have Chuck holding on to the tour de force, and if he can get some value out of that early on in the round, this could swing the way of OSU, but you gotta hold on to the straws if you are OSU. This is not the spot you want to be in.
They're in such an interesting position right now because the entire team has funneled into mid. They're choosing what side to execute on, and they're gonna all push in. A 5-man push. Shamson doing his best to shut it down. Finds 2, finds 3, finds 4. Okay, Shamson, that is insane. Now all that's left on the side of OSU Scarlet is Chuck the Human, has the tour de force. Really not much else to work with.
Shamson, are you kidding me? What a hold out of him, OSU. There's not much you can say about that round other than go next if you are Chuck. Fate of the universe on your back here will find that first kill, denies the ace out of Shamson, but KDS will find the round. And you can see these players are hype, and rightfully so after a play like that. Shamson, my God.
And OSU, they did everything right. They had the read right, and they managed to get the first trade. But then Shamson, after all that chaos, just did wonders for Sussy players. And now the scoreline all tied up, colorblind. It's a 3-3 match, and both teams on their bye.
Yeah, both teams on the bye, 2 ultimates across the board, both different ultimates. You have the Astra and the Fade ultimate on the side of Sussy players, 2 ultimates that can really lock down a defense, whereas if you're OSU, you're relying heavily on that Viper's Pit. You gotta just initiate onto a site, get that down, and hope to God that the enemy team does not find your Viper. Early pressure dedicated over towards that B site. The lack of pressure out of Sussy players is mentionable here. Now the initiation onto the point we go.
The push onto the site. Casper doing a good job of holding it down. Jesus is going to come through. Ultimate online as well. But all the players from OSU Scarlet are sort of forced into this corner position again. Vesper looking to capitalize on it, finds the angle, but gets pulled into a position, and that's a massive pick. He finds the Viper just as the pit's going down, and now they're all trapped in a corner. They can sort of funnel in. They have all the pressure on their side, and Sussy players do such a great job of reading into that positioning and just collapsing.
That Fade ultimate was so huge. You cancel out the sound for the OSU Scarlet players, and you cannot hear Vesperial, who is wreaking havoc in your lines, already into the site. Nothing you can do, and you're granted the round basically off of that alone. 2 ultimates online still to work with here, so you could carry that momentum into this next round. Sussy players, what a way to execute, and now OSU, once again, back is against the wall economically. You do have 2 Vandals, but outside of that, not much to work with here. So you're just trying to spread those credits and keep things in a manageable spot. Very interested, though, to see them buying up in a spot like this.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely worth it to enable the players that you think can do well. 0 Vandals, definitely not uncommon, but they're not always the choice for these players. They're just deciding exactly what site they want to push towards, exactly where they want to go. It looks like it's going to be split on towards A at the moment. They're doing a good job of prioritizing this mid control. And one thing that's very interesting about what Sussy players are opting to do, they don't prioritize mid at all. They leave the trip up on top. They keep Cypher always on this A site position. And then they just sit and they just wait. They'll collapse on them when they go through mid.
Here.
Very dominant position.
Yeah, no, you talk about Sussy players and their ability to collapse, but you also talk about how just patient they are and how comfortable they are in their own skin to just allow OSU to have so much map control, because they know they can play those retakes. They can get those round wins through retakes alone. The interesting thing about this, though, is the fact that they have a lot of pressure over towards that B site, none of which is going to be met with any resistance out of OSU, as they have already made the decision to dedicate most, if not all, of their players over towards that A site. And now with time ticking away into that 30-second mark, OSU, they're going to have to make a move here and now. Start to see a slow rotate out of Sussy players, maybe over towards that A site, but again, now the rotation, it's a mixy mosh pit here on this map as OSU is playing mind games with them and making their way over towards B now.
I don't think they've even figured out what the read is, but the combination play is going to be there. 14 seconds on the clock. They're putting all the presence onto A. They basically pulled everything, and OSU Scarlet, they're going to guarantee the plant down. They're going to guarantee some space towards spawn, but they're at the numbers disadvantage. Is this enough for them to take through the round?
That's the question that we need to have answers to here and now. Sussy players on the rotation in, sending in that breach utility is going to be huge as it stuns them up, but Grifty will find one. Grifty with 2, Grifty with 3. Frosty will respond in kind, but it ultimately is not enough. And the answer to your question, War, it is, as they take it in decisive fashion there, OSU. That was a crafty rotation out of them, and the ability to hold despite the player personnel disadvantage. It grants them the round. Fantastic showing out of them.
That was massive by specifically Grifty and Tinguini there. They had Rolling Thunder. They looked it down and they said, okay, we have a Stinger and we have a like we don't have the guns to do this. Stinger, but they still do it in that situation. Absolutely massive round for them. And I think that's going to leave a lot of question marks on Sussy player. Now, Tinguini holding on to this Nightfall. Obviously a very powerful ult, especially on this A site when you can use it to control all the A site and push them all off.
And going to be dedicating that ultimate over towards the A site. If you're Sussy players, you cannot hear anything on this site. Gives so much room for OSU to work. They'll find their way in. Hit that plant down to go. Frosty just trying to send some shots in. Not going to connect on anybody with the Odin. Instead, it's a 4v4 onto this point. Pincer from all different angles. Sussy players could potentially play from here. It's not going to be good in the early going. Shamson just trying to find something, will be denied. But back and forth we go in the feed. Tinguini will eventually find the kill. Frosty, he's going for the stick, and they have the fortification to go. Pros do not fake, and Sussy players will find the round, find the kills in the aftermath as well. That is one way to do it.
That is beautiful discipline from Frosty. You're asking, okay, do OSU Scarlet have potential on this A site? Obviously, the Cypher utility is there, but Frosty doing an amazing job of giving up the site. You don't talk about Cypher as a retake character, but when you have that neural theft to identify where all the players on OSU Scarlet are, and you realize, I got the one who is holding the spike, the other two have to swing me, I can just hold on to this situation. It was a last-second play, but it managed to work out on the side of Sussy players. Definitely down to the wire, though.
No, absolutely. You cannot cut it closer than that. But now, OSU in an interesting spot here. Gonna go for that middle control. And this time, they're going to be met with some resistance. It is Sussy players down mid, 3 players dedicated, and they are just steamrolling one by one. OSU drops. And in a round like this, where you do not have any economic pull whatsoever, if you are OSU, you're just trying to grasp for straws once again. So far in the early round, it's not going your way by any stretch of the imagination.
That was a really good read by Sussy players on noticing OSU Scarlet has been prioritizing this mid control, and they can just peek mid, find some good picks. Big trade comes through. Vaspero with 3, and Chuck the Human's going to be able to clean him up. But now left in a 3v1 situation, does have the spike, can go wherever he wants with it. Still 45 seconds, a lot of time on the clock, and a Vandal in his hands, but the world to do.
Making the right read here, but you have to wonder where that tripwire is going to be over towards this A site as he makes his way slow and steady. Sussy players not budging whatsoever. 25 seconds left to work with here for Chuck the Human, and trying to prove that he is much more than human here, but it's going to have to require a Herculean effort. Spots the trip, sends in that first shot, information given away, and he is going to be met with the wrath of an Odin. And there you have it, Sussy players, they are starting to gain some momentum.
That pull trip Odin combination from Frosty's been just doing wonders on this A site. And I'm wondering if I'm OSU Scarlet, obviously, got to activate that timeout, got to reconsider our game plan. But I think, as it's pointing out right now, it's going to look to be a hit towards B. The Cypher util on A side is just so oppressive. It sort of reminds me of that A side on split with Cypher. It's just so hard to breach that util unless you're going through mid, unless you're taking a different angle on it. So I think the next few hits from OSU Scarlet is going to have to be onto this B site.
Yeah, again, just as you said, suffocating, that is the word. And they also have to figure out what they're going to do about Frosty, because not only has he been controlling the map with those Cypher trips, he's also been clutching out rounds for them as well. I mean, we talk about that fantastic round where he stuck the defuse. Again, pros do not fake. That was a huge swing round. They're going to have to figure out what the hell they are going to do about him, because he just continues to gain so much map control, so much dominance for the side of Sussy players, and until they figure out what they're going to do with him, OSU is going to find themselves in a pit.
Yeah, and it looks like it's going to be a bit of a default setup from OSU Scarlet. I like this to start off the round. It's a good way to sort of show presence on all angles, see if they can get any picks, see if they can find any aggression from Sussy players.
OSU. Oh, it's very, very aggressive out of KDS. Oh my goodness, swings around, does get down, the trade goes, but that is uncharacteristic out of Sussy players coming out of the timeout. Might have decided to get a little bit more aggressive there, but nonetheless, still, rounds playing out early, similar to how it has in the past. OSU gaining full mid control here, but both sites locked down by Sussy players. Minute 15 left to work with here, and OSU once again just trying to figure out where they want to take this spike. They do have the chamber over towards that A site. Nobody really over towards B. They find themselves right back in their spawn again, and now might be finally making the play over towards that B site.
Thrifty with early pick through on Sussy players, giving OSU Scarlet the numbers advantage. And look at these rotations, Colorblind. You have 2 players from Sussy players just going on the back line, reading into this perfectly. But do they know that Chuck the Human is also right behind their tail? Players sneaking up on each other. It's all about when the contact is made. It's pixel to pixel. And Noodle's going to be the first one to find it. Second one, third one, all down. They're looking onto sight. Now Spike's in limbo. Chuck the Human, this positioning, we were talking about it. He needs to clap a bit quicker, but they only saw one. They didn't see Shamson, and that was an amazing read from Sussy players, just walking it straight down mid, doing what they wouldn't expect. An amazing round.
That was brilliant. That you could not have played that better if you are Sussy players. The way the Noodle just had the walk up, you almost just can't do anything if you're OSU at that point, other than maybe check your back lines. But that being said, again, the carnage, it continues for OSU Scarlet. They just seemingly cannot find their footing, and now Sussy players 4 ultimates on the docket as well. Oh, War, it's starting to get a little dicey.
Let's play.
With the way they use these and Tour de Force coming online, Sussy players don't even need to peek. They have 3 of the best ultimates to retake a site. The Nightfall, Rolling Thunder, and Showstopper all online. They don't even need to go aggressive here. They can just play slow, play for information, and just wait out for the plant. The more time they buy, the better it is. Camda is going to be the first one to strike.
Kama will find one, and you talked about the lack of aggression needed. Instead, Sussy players will be getting aggressive and punished every step of the way. The Showstopper comes in, but it's not going to connect for much more than just a little bit of chip damage. And just like that, Sussy players find themselves with their backs against the wall. A 2v4 situation here. Luckily for them, a couple of players on low HP for OSU Scarlet, but they're going to take that spike, plant it down on that A site, and continue to fortify here. Now the next steps for Sussy players, you have to get through mid. Not going to be able to do that when you have Tour de Force staring you down, barrel to face. Vesperial, the last player standing, will not be able to find the kill on Chuck the Human. Instead gets down to 3K out of him. And you have OSU Scarlet responding to Sussy players.
And that timing there, just to end out the round, I mean... OSU Scarlet, their form was looking absolutely amazing. They were going in with the disadvantage on ultimates and probably just the economic overall disadvantage, but managed to eke out the last round, making it 7-5 half. And whether or not this is attacker or defender sided, or whether or not either comp is sort of attacker or defender sided, I think it's still yet to be seen for this map and for these players. So still a lot to prove here for both teams.
Yeah, a lot of question marks still remain, but now onto the attacker side, we start to see interesting potential here with those double initiator picks. Will that be something that plays a role in the mix of this? That is the question that we are yet to see the answer to. Sussy players, slow and steady, not going to be going for middle control like OSU did. Instead, they're just going to make their decisive play over towards that A site. The aggression out of OSU early on will be rewarded, but just like that, Noodle will find one with the breach utility, evens things out for a piece. And now you look at Sussy players and you say, hey, we got to rotate. We got to figure out what we're going to do next steps from this point forward, because that's not how we wanted things to go at all.
Yeah, it was a good read, a 4-on-4 matchup on the A site, but now Sussy players forced off. They realized the amount of utility and the amount of pressure there. They saved some util over to the B site, and that's going to let them explode onto site. Get the plant down as well. So now a 4v4 for the retake. Chuck the Human, first one to look to make contact.
The slow rotate here out of OSU, trying to funnel in from every angle possible and just overwhelm them. Back and forth we go in the feed. Now a 3v3, and you have a lot of players to deal with if you are Sussy players, coming in again from multiple different angles. Flushing onto the site we go. Chuck the Human will gain some information, feeds it to Grifty, who finds 2. Now looking for the 3rd kill on the board, and it comes down to a 1v1. Frosty versus Chuck the Human. Both of these teams ring around the rosy, whose pockets will be full of Posey, as Chuck the Human still has to contend with the defuse. Will get that first half to go, but time might be the 6th player. It's gonna be close, and OSU will find it in the pistol round. What a play out of Chuck.
And that is a massive play from Chuck. I wish I could sort of play back the way that he creatively used his chamber TP. And you know how Skydogs work? You sort of use a Skydog, detect somebody and their teammates swing. He's like, yeah, I'm just gonna be the Skydog. I'm gonna jump at whoever's out there, give you guys the call and be like, oh, you're there, you're there, you're there. TP back and then let your teammates trade through. Amazing start from that team. But now we have KDS, Vesperia, looking for this lineup. This found 2 players last time. It's looking like it could do the exact same thing here. The C's doesn't hit, though. That's a very lucky moment for OSU Scarlet.
Yeah, and OSU Scarlet, they're not going to let the same thing happen twice. Same thing, different font is denied. The aggression into the point just cannot hit any of their shots whatsoever. And it comes down to Frosty, a 1v5.
Only a frenzy looking up mid. It's almost an impossible task. You're just looking for one person, and the timing's just not going to be there. Chuck the Human cleans it up again and ties up the scoreboard between OSU's Scarlet and Sussy players.
And as decisive as it can possibly be for OSU there, you can't ask for more out of them in a bonus round like that. But now we enter the next round, and we start to see the tables have definitely turned. Sussy players, again, with the Vandals, with the Phantoms, comparative to the Stingers, and not necessarily the best buy that you would want out of OSU Scarlet here. So both of these teams now on different footing, and should be interesting to see if OSU can hold on to momentum and potentially even gain their first lead of the map.
Interesting. OSU Scarlet's actually going to look to push up through all the way into this mid positioning, and they are right on the brink of swinging in basically the entire team. But Des is the one to make first contract. Noodle also gets a trade.
Early goings here, both teams exchanging blows. It's a battle of heavyweight fighters, 7-7. This round, it feels like it has so much in terms of momentum resting on it here. Chuck the Human is going to be the first line of defense. Pistol in hand, and a Dream will be denied the shot, but he gets out of there with his life, gets out of there with the information, and now the left foot, right foot express. It has to be hit for OSU Scarlet. They have to funnel back in to this point. Shots being traded back and forth, but Shamson will find two, finds the site opening as well. The spike will go down. Now it comes down to this. OSU have to play for the retake onto the A site.
It's all on Des here. He's the player with the Vandal, going to be spotted out. A great cam position from Frosty, sort of slow them down. Pull comes in as well. A lot of utility used early, but do they know Frosty's lurking up on this other angle? They're going to blind through. The timing's going to be there. Smoked off as well, but they don't know where to look. And Shamson Frosty with some amazing swings, some amazing crossfire to lock that one down.
And although Sussy players losing a couple of rounds there, they hold the mental, they hold strong. But now we're going to be on even footing. Despite the fact that OSU drops that round, they're going to have the Vandals, they're going to have the Phantoms. The economy will grant them as well an op in the hands of Chuck the Human, who has just been frying on the operator here thus far. And now, again, you look towards Sussy players here. You've gotten that round on the board. Now you have to prove that you still have that momentum in the palm of your hands here. You have to turn that into the next round. In the next round, OSU, though, still argue that there is potential here, and the aggression again out of the defensive side of them. It's just aggression no matter what side of the coin they're on.
Yeah, Chuck the Human doing his best to walk up, take a bit of an awkward angle, and he's just going to be able to hold that. That's so important on the A site, because obviously a very interesting site where you have 2 points of entry. You usually look to see the Sentinels locking down both sides of A, but with Chuck the Human on this angle, he can basically deny everything. Meanwhile, a push towards mid. Des is going to be the first one to make contact. Brings out the Vasperil. Gets the trade through.
Good trade there. And again, we talk about the aggression. Chuck will be dropped as well. And now that A site, it completely opens itself up for Sussy players to funnel on into the point. OSU waiting for their players to regroup, re-rumble, get back into the mix here as the spike does go down. A 3v5 retake for them. And you also have Frosty in your backlines lurking ever so slowly towards you. And do you expect it? That is the question. Kame will deny the disaster, but still so much more needed out of OSU Scarlet.
And it's great discipline to repair that. And at this point in time, you don't exactly know what the split is from Sussy players. You don't know if all 5 are on site, where they're set up, if they have their spawns. So I like this decision. They're just going to opt towards the opposite site, save their guns, and ensure that they can get a good round moving forward.
Yeah, very smart decision here. Given the circumstances, you really don't want to push your luck too much. But that being said, Sussy players are going away from the site. They're not maybe going to get anything out of this, of course. Not going to get too aggressive over towards where they know OSU is going to be. And just like that, a 9-7 scoreline of Sussy players finding the last 2 rounds here. Now OSU in a spot where they're going to be able to have a partial buy. Again, got to put the Phantoms and the Vandals in your hero players. Rely on a player like Des to pick something up. You also have the Tour de Force online, and Chuck can get firing under that. It could potentially swing back the way of OSU. This becomes a very important round, though, because if OSU doesn't pick up this round, Sussy players enter that 10-round barrier, and from that point forward, looks really, really bleak.
Tour de Force definitely noted towards the B side of things. So the rest of the Sussy players are going to be lining up with rotation towards the A side. And Camden gets absolutely lit up, down to 3 HP. No Sage, no Sky, no escape for this player. And they're just going to back up. Basically, give through sight, switch out the guns. And I love that decision. Realizes that he's the low one. He should sort of just take a step back. Let Tinguini be the one to take these engagements.
Now the rotation is on. You also have Frosty, who just continues to be lurking through the map and continues to find value with those lurks. Finds the kill onto Grifty down mid, but now the spike trying to go down on this A point. Lots of utility being dedicated from both sides of the equation. The locations are revealed now, though, from that Cypher, and they're just going to continue to fire shots in, knowing exactly where OSU is. They will find the round, and Sussy players go up 10-7.
The Sussy players have just had such clean executes. Ever since they won that third round in the attacker side of things, they have looked absolutely flawless here. They are really finding space onto these sites, and they're not taking it and just instantly going for the plant. They're taking it and then taking a bit more, seeing all the space that they can eke out of OSU Scarlet, ensuring that they have the best setup here. This looks like it's going to be another push towards the A side here. We'll see if the OSU Scarlet team is going to be able to read into this.
Oh, and it looks like they are. There's so many players stacked over towards this A site, and when you know what's working, you might as well try and combat it through and through. Here we go. OSU trying to find the value. They will. Kills matriculating through the feed one by one, and you blink, the round is over. OSU, a fantastic read, dedicating their players over towards that A site. You're definitely going to expect Sussy players to maybe reconsider their approach moving forward on the attacker side.
One of the things I like about the OSU Scarlet defense side of things is they're very fluid with exactly what they do, and they never sort of repeat the same thing. They're not letting Sussy players find out what their tempo is. On the first round, they started 4 on A. The next round, they instantly went 4 to B. And now we're coming in round 5, 6. They're putting 4 on A again. They're extremely unpredictable, and it feels like they have an extremely wide playbook of things to do, positions to play in. Now, when these ultimates are coming online, it's very important that they prioritize taking this space.
Again, the aggression here to take that space is very distinguishable in this map compared to the defensive side of Sussy players who rather let you kind of just run into them. OSU is just peeking down A main, trying to head into the spawn of Sussy players. We'll get some early information and decide to back up wisely so as the rotation from Sussy players to provide a little bit more support in the map is enacted on. Now that OSU has that early information, it should be interesting to see where they decide to take it. Sussy players heading over towards that B site.
It's a very smart read. Realize that OSU Scarlet is getting aggressive. They don't know how much space has been taken. The Rolling Thunder is going to come through. Thrifty in an interesting position, is going to find one, is going to find two. That's massive. Going to take a TP out. I love this positioning too. They're going to assume he's already cleared, but no, Frosty has the diligence. He's going to be able to check it through. Now, a 3v3 situation. Sussy players blitzing onto the site.
And they're going to get that plant down, but OSU breathing down their necks outside every angle here. Frosty, though, will find the kill off onto Tinguini, continues to gain more map pressure. But that being said, Chuck the Human, proving to be inhuman, finds 2 kills to go. Immediately thrusts Shamson into a 1v2, and once again, we ring around the rosy. Their backs to him. They might be reduced to ashes. Finds the first. Will be denied the second as Des will find the kill. And there you have OSU Scarlet looking to continue to try and make their way towards evening things up. It's 10-9.
That was such a close, but such an important round for OSU Scarlet. Now, the economy for Sussy players, it hasn't broken yet, but KDS definitely gonna be struggling to bring together a buy. Frosty as well. It's one of those situations where you're wondering, okay, should we buy up with the majority of what we have? Should we opt for a save? What should we do? And the real thing I think they need to do is just find some way to shut down Chuck the Human and Dez, because they have been absolutely monumental in the success of OSU Scarlet.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing here as we look at the KDAs is just the fact that Sussy players, although they're winning, they're very much less impressive in that regard. You have standout players on OSU. Sussy players more so playing as a team in that regard in the kill death department here. picking things up and maintaining their map pressure. That's really been their bread and butter thus far, but in a save round like this, there's not going to be a lot that you realistically can do if you are Sussy players. Again, in that economic peril, coming off of the back foot of 2 rounds going the way of OSU Scarlet. First kill, again, Frosty dropped down. OSU looking like they could tie this thing up.
Sussy players' stance in this game is just so scared. You see how long they're spending just waiting to see what OSU Scarlet's defense setup is, because they've known to been going so aggressive. But first pick's gonna come through. That's Girl with a big one. KDS to follow.
And here we go. Sussy players funneling into that B site, dedicating a lot of utility. The Fade ultimate is online, and if you're OSU, you're not going to be able to hear much as you make your retake into the site with the spike going down. And Grifty, another crafty teleportation. Will he be able to get the value out of that? The opposing Fade ultimate's going to be dedicated onto the point. Neither of these teams are going to be hearing each other, just shooting in general directions. We have 3 kills up on the board, and now trying to funnel their way back onto the point, but you still have KDS sitting in this very crafty angle here. The value is yet to be seen from that. Defuse coming through.
Beautiful. And I don't think they know where KDS is, but they have to shoot at the spike. What are we doing? Oh my gosh, OSU Scarlet cleans it up. An absolute bloodbath on the site. They win that one out too. Now the scoreline's all tied up 10-10.
And there we have it. Both of these teams, again, the 2 and 3 seed, delivering on the anticipated hype that we had. And it could not be closer than this war at this point, heading into the 21st round. Both of these teams looking very good, but OSU looking even better in the last 3, rattling those off, getting back into the mix of this, and looking to hold on to momentum here as you have partial shield buy out of Sussy players as well, so they're not fully out of the economic peril that we've seen them in thus far. That being said, going to be dedicating a lot of utility. Grifty, though, with a very thrifty angle, will find the kill off onto KDS in the early round. And that's going to have to force Sussy players to reconsider what they're going to do with this play.
Such a slow positioning. Trades have gone through already. Showstopper used, dodged, and taken care of. Now, both teams on an equal footing. Form's going to be towards the B side here. Haun's not necessarily going to find anybody, but Noodle with a great angle onto Camda. That wall bang is going to be massive, giving Sussy players the advantage in this site. Tinguini looking for the space on the site. We know they can be good with these retakes. The question of when they're all funneling in from the exact same angle, how good are they going to be? They're going to swing through, but the utility's there. Noodle doing a great job of holding them in place.
And now again, they try and make the take into this site. A little bit less pressure being felt by Sussy players, but they still have to clear this site out with time of the essence. Des decides to bring a knife to a gunfight. Noodle will gladly capitalize on that. A 4K out of him, and you're starting to see it once again. Sussy players, even when you think they're out, they're going to find their footing, and they're going to find the lead once again, 11-10. But again, you can still feel OSU's breath on your neck. You gotta find some separation in the following rounds here.
Yeah, you cannot let OSU get any momentum. And this is a great round for Sussy player because now they're going to have the economic advantage. We've seen this sort of half just goes like a wave. You see the momentum for OSU. We see the momentum for Sussy players backing sort of back and forth, not really relenting in any means. We'll see if KDS can really hold on to this Sussy player momentum.
KDS sending in those nades, not going to connect this time. I think OSU has learned from their past transgressions. And here we have an interesting rotation here early on. KDS sending in the nade, making some noise over towards that A site, and instead they're going to hit over towards A, and early kill will go their way as well. Tinguini just has to duck, dive, and dodge, and the dodge will not work. Now the rotation is on for OSU, but how much can you realistically do with the lack of guns, with the lack of personnel as well? The spike going down, Sussy players are set up and ready to hold this A site.
Yeah, and when we were taking with Sheriffs, I mean, you have the tour de force, you have that operator potential, but it's going to be so hard on the retake, and none of these players, all they have is the Omen blind to really breach the side of the site. Gonna want to send it in here at some point in time because this is the save round from OSU Scarlet. It's just, how do you want to approach this? When do you want to send it in? Chuck the Human looking to do something crazy here. We're gonna be triple faced. Doesn't find anything.
Are you
But
kidding?
Chuck the Human. Oh my god, the no scope. Okay.
That was very nice, but time is going to be the extra player here for Sussy players, and well, they won't even need the time as Shamson does find that kill, and now we have match point on the board here. Winner of this, again, advances into that winner's finals, advances into top 4 contention, advances into those best of 3s, and War, the day is still very young, but for one of these teams, the day is going to get a lot harder, potentially even after this round, if Sussy players can hold. But that being said, OSU, they noticed the situation that they were in, decided to have that light buy in the last round, be throwing all their credits into this round, and this round has to go their way here and now.
This round is practically the round that decides everything, because if OSU Scarlet come up with this round, Sussy players are going to be on a bit of a half buy in the next round too. The economy has not shifted one way or another. There's still a lot to be decided. And that's why I love this Viper Pit instantly coming out on the B site. They're denying the site that Sussy players have had the most success with, forcing Sussy players to maybe reconsider, okay, what should we be doing here? Should we be pushing up mid? Should we take the A site where Des and Chug the Human are going to just be awaiting us the entire time? They still haven't even picked up the spike yet. They're still making their consideration.
The mid approach here out of Sussy players is not something that we have necessarily seen all too much on the attacker side, as they decide to kind of go towards a site and full throttle into it. Now, again, that Viper's Pit is going to throw a monkey wrench to their plans.
You see the pings coming out. The indication is going to be there. It's going to be a rolling thunder onto the B site, but Grifty's going to be the first one to find one. They're still holding a good position on this site. Viper's Pit is still in their backline too, so even if the plant comes down, it's going to be an attack from 2 different sides, 2 different angles. Frosty's already looking to push up.
This Pincer is so huge, but the angle that Frosty could play this from is equally so. It's just a matter of who peeks who first, who gets that early information. The Cypher will get some information to go. Noodle swinging, finding the first, but denied the second as Chuck the Human evens things out 3 apiece. Still, the retake has to go through. Viper's wall no longer there. Now trying to make their way onto the point. Time is ticking away. They have to get these kills to go. They have to stick this defuse here, and now Grifty hopping onto it, but is going to be denied. And there you have it. Sussy players, barring a miracle, are going to take it, and they advance into our winners finals. They have a date either with Akron Esports or OSU Gray.
And that was a great round. You can see all the energy from the Sussy players. I gotta love that from them.
Okay.
Obviously, a very close round, but they're showing off that they're here and they mean business. They're going to be going on to the winners final, but obviously that is not the final of the entire tournament, because got the losers bracket down there as well. You see all the love, all the good games passed around for Sussy players and OSU Scarlet. Very, very close match, but the 2 seed does eke it out over the 3 seed.
Yeah, and again, we talked about it at one point. The pendulum, it just kept on shifting to where it wasn't even going blow for blow. It was, hey, this team is taking 3 rounds, and then Sussy players will take 4 rounds, and then OSU will take another 3. And it was just very interesting to see how that pendulum just continued to go back and forth between these 2 teams. I'm very excited to see what OSU Scarlet can do in that lower bracket. But that being said, Sussy players now with a date against Akron Esports. And this is going to be a very, very good matchup to follow. Again, that 1 seed taking on the 2 seed decisively so. Akron Esports finished off OSU Gray. And here we have it, War. This bracket is starting to develop.
And seeing Sussy players play that match, I mean, they looked absolutely incredible. And as you can see, OSU Gray actually putting up quite a fight. So the winner's semifinal, we get blessed with 2 13-10s. So definitely not a stomp of the map. And by any means, I'm definitely looking out for both of these OSU teams down in the losers bracket as well. But your eyes have to be drawn towards the winners final. Sussy players, Akron Esports. We've talked about both these teams a lot. We haven't had a chance to see Akron Esports on the screen, but Sussy players, we did just see take that victory.
Yeah, no, and again, these 2 teams are as even as it is going to get. Again, it's the 1 and 2 seed. I mean, we've been absolutely just given the best of the best thus far, because we started with the 4 and 5 seed, then we got the 2 and 3 seed, and now we're going to have the 1 and 2 seed at some point as well. But that being said, let's go ahead and move to our interview. It's KDS joining us here and now. And man, can we talk about your play here? Talk to me a little bit about that nade play to kick things off. That was just a flashy one.
Yeah, you always love the nade suck. It's a good one.
Obviously,
Kobe
obviously a great play. And talk to me a bit about Sunset as a map. Obviously, you sort of had a choice of you could ban this at any point in time down the ban line, but no team decided to ban it, and you're playing on a new map. What's the mentality going into this map? Have you guys played it a lot before you came into this tournament?
Yeah, we've been scrimming it for a while, and as a newer team coming into this with a newer map, I figured, it's best if we just try and get all the information as we can, and early, no one's played it as much if they've been a team for a long time, so just went with that one.
Talk to me a little bit about your defensive strategy, because it was very interesting to see how just you guys let them kind of have their way with the map, but you were able to capitalize and collapse onto them. Talk to me a little bit about that. Where does that come from?
Yeah, you're almost falling asleep in spawn, but just kind of let them make the move, play off the info they're giving us, and just capitalize off that. Try and just fall asleep, really. Let them make the move.
You said that Sussy players were a bit of a newer team. Tell me about your formation and your experience together as a team.
Just know the boys from different lands, and just decided, hey, Game Arena's hosting one. Let's try and win this thing. So hopefully we'll do that.
Well, now you guys have a date in the winners finals up against Akron Esports, and against the 1 and 2 seed, we are being absolutely rewarded as casters to have the opportunity to see this play out the way that it has. But talk to me, what's the strategy heading into this? I mean, guys, kind of the underdogs?
You could say so for sure. Just stick to our guns. We've been scrimming for a while, so just do our jobs and we'll take the dub.
Well, I love that mentality, man. It's fantastic to watch. You guys hope to see much more out of you guys moving forward in this tournament here today. But that being said, War, I think we're going to go ahead and send it to a very, very quick break. But that being said, don't go anywhere. The day is still young, and we have a lot of Valorant action still coming your way.